Welcome to the Football Show on PLZ Soccer's YouTube channel. I'm Peter Martin. I'm delighted to say Neil Lennon, Tam McManus and the St Mirren manager is here with us. I've battled to get you here, Stephen Robinson, so it's been a long time. I'm delighted that you're with us and we've got lots to talk about. Here's what's coming up on the menu.
Rangers boss Philippe Clement believes the club's fans have the right to dream of a domestic treble coming to Ibrox this season.
As a player, as a manager, as member of staff, you need to be in the story in that moment. But that's the nice thing to be fan, that you can do those things.
Brendan Rogers hits back at those who tried to bring him down after Celtic booked a Scottish Cup quarter-final tie against Livingston. Neil Warnock insists Aberdeen striker Bojan Majowski is the best forward player he's ever worked with in his time in management.
I said to him, score a couple of goals and come off at half-time, or if you want 15 more minutes, you could have 15 minutes to get your hat-trick. And he scored 2 goals. We had a wink at each other when he scored his goal.
Dundee have lodged a formal complaint over serious concerns about the handling of Michael Mellon's head injury against St Johnstone.
Yeah, lots to talk about, and in the company of the St Mirren manager. A day after it, how do you feel?
Yeah, still processing it, obviously. It was a really good performance without getting the end product. You know, I think when you play against Celtic, it's important not to just let them dominate every bit of the game, and I felt we didn't. You know, we pressed them, and I don't think there's too many teams pressed them the way we pressed and won the ball back numerous times. You know, the pitch isn't conducive to really good football at times, so we knew that we'd be able to get on top of them in terms of our press, and that's the difference in levels. You know, were clinical with the 2 chances they had, and we simply weren't.
Yeah, and that's when we look back on the game, Neil, and you were there. It's those moments. We're watching the game, and I'm thinking, if Kiltie heads that ball down on target.
That was the moment. Like Celtic getting the early goal after half time as well gives them a 2-goal buffer, which as a Celtic manager was looking for it. But the Kiltie chance was really well worked, and he's got a score as it gets it back to 2-1. Psychologically, the game changes then in favour of St Mirren. I thought it was a great cup tie. I have to say, I really enjoyed it. I thought St Mirren came out of the traps really well, and you have to say the goal Celtic got was against the run of play, really. And then, to and fro on a really difficult pitch as well. I think both teams served up a really good game of football.
Yeah, you put the kiss of death on it because you tipped St Mirren because the shock in that round.
Thanks.
Yeah, well done.
No, listen, I think the guys have summed it up. I think that St Mirren started the game really, really strongly. I think you had 8 corners in the first half. You know, not many teams get 8 corners at home against Celtic in the first half. Didn't take their chances, and Celtic were clinical. A wee bit unlucky with the goal. I thought it went through the defender's legs past the goalkeeper. Listen, from a Celtic point of view, it's a good goal, but a wee bit fortunate in the header. You know, he's got to score. You know, I think he's probably not the best in there, the wee boy Kiltie, but he's got to get his head on that and score that, and then you're back in the game. But I thought Celtic defended strongly. I looked at the Celtic back four and I thought, I think St Mirren could maybe get something here today. But to be fair to Scales and Welsh, I thought they were solid. St Mirren put you under pressure. They put crosses in the box, you know, and they defended well. And a great save for Joe Hart for Big Gogic's overhead kick, which would have been a great goal. He hit the bar as well. So great cup tie. Celtic were more clinical. That was the difference.
Yeah, and from a manager's perspective, and this is what maybe a lot of fans won't appreciate, and you two guys will give us a great insight into this. You know, he knows he's missed a great opportunity, but he's been a good player for you this season. And the team itself, you know, when those opportunities are missed, do you go away as a manager and say, okay, you've missed the chance, put it to the back of your mind, or do you actually focus on it and try and work to make them better players? I know you do that a lot. You did it at Motherwell. Is that what you would do? How would you put your arm around them?
Yeah, nobody means to make a mistake. You know, that's the thing you have to remember. There's no point going in and shouting and screaming. The world has changed. You can't do that to people anymore. And Greg's a super boy, a fantastic, talented footballer. So we expected him to score. But I think all you can do as a manager and coach is get them into them positions. You know, we probably need 10 chances in the box to get 2 goals, where, you know, a Shankland, Majowski, Kyogo, they need 2 chances, they score 1 of them, and that's the difference in levels at times. But what we've got is a really receptive group of boys that work really hard, that want to improve. You know, I think that's the key, that they want to improve, they want the information, and I'm very lucky to have a very good coaching staff that provide that and keep trying to give them the small details that try to bridge the gap. You know, we never sign a finished article. Nobody outside probably the top 2 or 3 sign the finished article, and we're always trying to improve them and make them better. And there'd be nobody more disappointed than Greg. And you know, there's other chances within that as well that we could be more clinical to. And I think what Tam said about Celtic defensively. They don't really get that kind of credit. You know, they're classed as a very good football team, but some of the blocks that they made in the 6-yard box, and Joe Hart I thought was superb on the day, dealing with corners and deliveries into the box, and you know, they deserve credit for that as well. At times, that's the 2 18-yard boxes are the difference between winning and losing football matches.
Yeah, I mean, this week, Neil, I had a sit down with Jim McAnally looking back over his career. He'd worked with Billy McNeil. He then went on to work with Brian Clough. And then he works with Jim McLean, and 3 more different characters you could not meet. But the one in the middle, which was Cloughy, he said it was just outrageous. He said you'd play a fantastic game, but he'd say something to keep you in check. He said, and then when you didn't play a game that you thought you were great in, he'd go psychologically and lift you, and you just want to put your head through a brick wall for him.
Yeah, Gary Parker used to tell us stories like that one. He used the reverse psychology a lot, Clough. You know, you thought you were playing well, he'd bring you down a peg or two, and then, you know, if somebody came in at half time and was having a bad game, he goes, listen, don't worry about that, you'll be starting for me next week. And the guy immediately, you know, thinking he's going to get a rollick, and it's the total opposite. So, again, Clough had his own ways of doing things. He was a genius, like, you know, and then he worked with Jim McLean, was another great manager. They wouldn't have been too shy in coming forward, like, you know, with Rob was talking about, you can't really sort of take people out now. They would have done. You know, Morton was the same, you know, he's tough at times, but made you feel brilliant as well. So there is all different aspects. What Stephen touched on, he's got to be pleased with the quality of chances that they created yesterday. You can't put the ball in the net for him, but he can get the team into those positions, and that's what St Mirren did yesterday. Just the execution was missing, that was all. But I thought Joe Hart played great, and I have to say he has played well in the last couple of games. He's really stepped up. I thought he was great at Hibs the other night, made some really important saves, and he made a big one at Aberdeen last week as well. And he doesn't have to do a lot, you know, over the course of the season, but he's showing his qualities at the minute. Yeah.
Tam, from your own point of view, of the 17 moves that you were released by each manager, was there one that got the best out of you? Was there one that actually you felt as if you would really push yourself to the limit?
Probably Alec McLeish. Alec McLeish at Hibs. I thought he was a tremendous manager. Again, like the guys are saying, great man manager. You know, made you feel a £100 player. And also Stephen Kenny at Derry City in Dunfermline. Stephen wasn't the best tactically, but he could lift you. He was a great man manager. So 2 totally different coaches, to be honest. But you've got to have a mixture of both. You've got to be a good man manager and a good tactician. And I think the best managers are both.
Yeah, I listened to you when he was saying there you can't rollick players anymore. There's a wee titter from you as if it's still in the game, isn't it? You can still batter. I don't believe for a minute he doesn't go tonto at half time on a bad performance.
No, he's such a mal-mannered guy.
We've got to get a ball boy outside that dressing room.
Don't be fool. To be fair, you've had to, and then he'll, you know, agree with me here. I've had to evolve over time as well. You know, we grew up in an environment where our managers told you straight. You were told them. It made you mentally tough, and you reacted to it. You know, now we live in a society where people really struggle with criticism, and it's, you know, they struggle with setbacks. So I've learned to manage a lot differently, and we've got a group of boys that can take that, and if it's constructive criticism, they'll buy into it. But I'm a lot gentler than I used to be. I think the boys seen me the other night when we were arguing over kick-off times and things with Dundee, and Ryan Flynn said to me, I thought it was the Oldham manager again there. But you live and learn, and as you get a little bit more experience how to deal with certain individuals, some can take it, some need an arm around them. And ultimately, if you go to work every day and somebody's criticising you, are you going to do your best for them? Are you going to get the best out of them? You know, if somebody's telling you you're poor all the time, you know, I don't think that's the way to do it. I think, you know, trying to accentuate how good they are at certain things and make them better at the things they're not, and give them belief that they can, you know, we play Celtic or Rangers and we go, how do we bridge the gap? And it's got to be a collective, you know, it's got to be a collective belief that as a team, how we're set up, how we press, you know, as that group, can that group be better than the individual quality they've got? And that's what we try and do.
Yeah, you both have said, you know, that you've evolved and you've learnt from not only the managers and when you were players. From your own perspective, I listened to so many managers to try and get that sense of what type of manager they are. And of course, we talked about Clough. Marcello Lippi was at a large conference and somebody said to him, what style of manager are you? And he says, it all depends on the type of players I have available to me. And then I hear stories from players who say, Steve Clarke doesn't overcomplicate it for players. He keeps it very simple and straightforward. Have you changed over the years, and do you try and coach but not to flood the head of a player?
Yeah, I think when you first start management, it's all about you. It's all about showing people how good you are, and you'll do drills and training all the time, and keep changing them all the time to show you've got all these sessions and you can make players better. But actually, they're too busy thinking about the movements instead of the execution and what they should be doing to get better. So we do try and we're very repetitive with what we do. We do our forward patterns constantly every day. So it's muscle memory, really. Where the passes out from the back. Lenny will seen some of the practice games that we play, and it's the boys know what they're trying to do. They don't always execute it right, but they're trying to do the right things time and time again. The same with out of possession and in possession. And yeah, you try and take the complication out of it. Football's hard enough. You've got hundreds of thousands of people judging you all the time and having opinions. So you try and free their mind so that it's just natural, the things they're doing, like hitting the target constantly.
Yeah. So it's a repetitive work on the formations for you as well.
Constantly. Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, we'll have a certain 20-30 minute period it'll be small sided games, or it'll be 11v11, but in between that then the back five will go away. They'll work on their passing options, and they're like a golfer, practicing 7-iron distances and pitch and wedge. It's the same thing. They're practicing diagonal balls, they're practicing balls reversed into the 6. The forward players and midfielders are practicing their constant movements, with the 10 spinning behind the 9 coming to feet, or vice versa. And so you hope it comes more natural to them, and you allow them then to go and express themselves. So it doesn't always work like that.
No,
but that's the thought process behind it. And I heard a good story about Mourinho and Frank Lampard. He told it on the pro licence. My assistant manager Dermot O'Carroll told us that he'd done a session one day, and then the next day he changed it. But it was the same principles, but the actual session itself was different. Frank Lampard said to him, but it took me so long to find out and work out what the session was. I wasn't actually doing the execution as well as I should have been. And from then, he said, I just kept the same session over and over and over again, because it was all about me and it was all about showing people how good I was. And he said he learned that early on, and I thought it was really good advice.
Yeah, because I look at it from all sorts of sports, Neil. And for example, going back to the Chicago Bulls had the main point was Michael Jordan is such a great player, just get the ball to him constantly. But then when they eventually moved on to their coach that won, I think 5 out of
Phil Jackson
out of 5 out of the 6 rings, he made the game all about the team and the triangles, and they did the same thing. The sessions were all about playing the formations, playing the triangles. One guy has it, 2 guys available. Same principle in football, 5 aside you, and they stuck.
See the pictures.
They see the picture, and they understood every play that was going down.
Ferguson told me that when he brought Carlos Queiroz in, they would just continually do repetitions of the same drills, just on different days, and then obviously finish with games or something like that. But the drills were important, and the players hated it. But they saw the value of it in the end because it worked.
Yeah.
Because all players want to do is play small-sided games.
Of course.
We've actually stopped recently on a Friday because we've had that many games. It's just you have to play small-sided games on a Friday. And we're like, no, actually, we want to take the weight off their legs, and we want to work tactically, in terms of our pattern, our finish, and our movement in and around the ball. What we're not brilliant at, and we've improved at, is in that final 25 yards, or one-touch play and clever play, where you're not giving them specifics. So we get to a certain point in the pitch where we're saying this is how you get to here, but now you got to think for yourself. Now you got to be inventive. You got to express yourself, and we constantly worked on it. And we're like, well, they're not learning that from the small-sided games. Yeah. So we've done it the last few Fridays, and funny enough, we won 3 out of the 4, and the one we lost was Sunday, and we done small-sided games. So that's the end of that. There's no more small-sided games.
And it's a St Mirren player watching this.
Like,
oh no! He's walking through the shape again.
You see how he's evolved after one training session. Although it wouldn't be too bad if you had Paul Scholes and you're playing games and you go, and by the way, give it to him and he'll play a 40-yard defence splitting pass.
It does help. Good players helps.
Absolutely.
Henrik. And he get the ball to him, will you?
Although, interestingly enough, the stories of the Clough, which is interesting nowadays, and I want to touch base before we get the thoughts on Celtic and Brendan Rodgers and what he said after the game, and then obviously we've got to talk about the other matches and the draw as well. So do stick with us, but hopefully on this show you get an insight into how a manager like yourself thinks. There was another story I heard where Brian Clough had signed Neil Webb, and Neil Webb was a really good player, went on to play for England, but he passed the ball back to the centre half, and Cloughy shouted from the touchline, "One more, and you're off." And he said, if I wanted the centre halves to be able to play football, I'd move them into midfield. Yeah. And it reminds me of you telling the stories, and Martin and Neil would tell the stories. Listen, Johan, you're a 5 yards, give it to Lambert and Lennon and let them play football. Yeah. You're there to head it out of the danger area.
Yeah. Just do your job. My job was to win it and give it the boys that painted the pictures, like, you know what I mean? I was carrying the paints. And that was basically, specifically your job. He hated me going beyond the ball. And if I didn't get turned to play forward when I could do, like, he'd go... Cloughie was another one. The centre forward flicked it and they lost it.
Didn't hold it in.
One more. Last one, you know.
And you're off.
One of the strikers to get hold of it, like, you know what I mean? And again, it's simplicity, but it was a bit... He had his own way of doing things. He didn't... I don't think he coached a great deal, like, you know. His was more about man management and psychology and getting the best out of his players. And, you know, he would obviously do a lot of work on the recruitment side of things, scouting, if you want to call it that, and getting the best players he could available. But the game's evolving all the time, you know, and people have, you know, their way of doing things. And look, bottom line is, if you're getting results, then it's working.
Yeah.
You know, whatever you're doing, you know, whether it's repetition, whether it's shape, whether it's drills, whether it's just possession in games, if you're getting results on a constant basis, like Stephen is at the minute, you know, then it's working, so no one can, you know, criticise you for it.
Yeah, and on that point, we are in what I call in this period where managers are obsessed with the rollout from the back. I mean, sometimes I watch Ange Postecoglou's Tottenham with my fingers over my eyes, thinking, is he really playing it to a guy who's come from the outside the D with two guys marking him? From your own point of view, there's an obsession with it, and people sometimes get caught up in this way to play football.
I think it's a trend at the moment, isn't it? It is a trend. I think what you've got to look at, have you got the players to do that?
Exactly.
As a manager, you've got to go, have I got the players to do that? I've got 3 really, really good defenders, but I'm not going to ask them to play out in the 6-yard box. Mm-hmm. If I do have really, really good footballers in that area, you're doing it for, as long as you're doing it for a reason. I say to our academy boys, you can play out in your 18-yard box. You don't have to do exactly what we do. We have very similar principles of how we press and where we want to play. But if you're playing in your own 18-yard box, what are you doing it for? Are you doing it to attract the press, to miss it, so that you create a 3v3 situation in the top end of the pitch? Because ultimately, we're all trying to get to the top end of the pitch and score goals, you know, and fans want to be entertained. So if you're doing it for a reason, I understand it. If you've got the personnel to do it, you know, Brighton do it, and they do it very, very well at times. I don't have the personnel to do that. So I think it's bad management if you then go, I'm going to ask players that isn't their A game to do. And I'm going to put them under huge pressure. Or a goalkeeper that isn't very good on the ball. But, you know, if you're asking them to do that, I think I hear about philosophies, and I think it's a young manager thing when they talk about their philosophy. Your philosophy... You know, your philosophy will get you sacked if you don't adjust it to the players that you have. You know, we all want to play like Pep. I mean, I'd love to play like Pep, but you have to do it to what you have, and we've got real strengths in our squad that we play to. And, you know, you try and... At Motherwell, we were quite direct. We got a couple of cup finals, and then I changed it completely. We went to Spain and just went, right, we're changing it. I actually got bored playing 3-5-2 and went, right, let's go 4-3-3. We signed wingers, and we finished 3rd, and we were brilliant. We played really, really good football. And the season after... we tried to play it from back. We turned the dial too much, and we weren't good enough to do it. And we didn't have, you know, a Kyogo at the top end of the pitch to score that 1 and 2 chances that we created, because we didn't put the same amount of balls into the box. You know, so and then we realised, you know, it wasn't working, and we had to try and turn the dial back again. And we're probably similar at St Mirren, where we started. We came into a club where we felt there wasn't enough legs in the club. We put the players together that we wanted. I think we play a really good mix. You know, we deliver lots of balls into the area, but we play when it's on to play. And it's important not to go too far. And we want to keep taking it as far as we can, and, you know, increasing our possession stats, increasing our patterns, increasing the, you know, the amount of clever playing around the box. But you can take it too far, because you do create less chances in them areas. And if you don't have the top strike, like Morelos at the time, you know, he was scoring goal after goal after goal, but he might only had 2 chances, he scored 1. We need 5 and 6 chances to do that, you know, so it's about creating those chances. So, yeah, philosophies for me, and the style of play is totally dictated on the personnel that you have.
Yeah, absolutely. And with that in mind, Celtic did get their 2 goals. The manager afterwards, again, keen to highlight maybe some people who he thinks have got it in for him. This is what Brendan Rodgers had to say after the game. We are a winning club. When you've won consistently, people will look to jump on you and bring you down and bring me down. I'm here to win, for sure. We will have our day. We'll get our influential players back, and the squad will be very strong to the end of the season. Well, I think Brendan at the moment, whether he's been coached on it or whether he genuinely feels that some people have got it in for him.
Might be a good thing for Celtic, creating that siege mentality where everybody's against us. He changed the system yesterday. He played the 2 strikers, which I don't think he's done for a long time at Celtic. You know, he played with 2 forwards, he played with 2 wide players, and it worked. He got a result. But I think the criticism has been maybe over the top at times, but Celtic have set such a high bar, such a high standard that the fans expect that every week. You know, 1-0 up against Ross County in 1 minute and win 1-0. You know, fans expecting to go and win 3 and 4-0, 5-0. So they've set high standards, they've set a high bar, but maybe that siege mentality will bring the squad together. Big result for Celtic yesterday. As I said, I thought I quite fancied St Mirren. You know, he turned them over. But they went and they got the result and they're in the next round, and maybe that'll give them confidence going forward.
Yeah, okay. We'll come back to Stephen and get more of his thoughts before we finish on St Mirren. Rangers 2, Ayr United 0. They've got possibly the tie of the round against Hibs. We'll look at the quarter-final draw shortly. But what did you make of the win?
Comfortable, you know. He was able to use the squad, some of the squad players. You know, I think Ayr played, you know, as well as they could, which you'd expect, because, you know, the players can lift themselves, and obviously they've got Brownie in the dugout who knows all about going and playing there. But yeah, I mean, for me, Rangers are still a work in progress, but you know, he's stamped his authority on the club. There's a calmness about him. I think he talks a lot of common sense, and this team are winning games. But we'll go back there, Pete. In that job, the ultimate one is to beat Celtic, and that's the only blot on his sort of record so far. He's already got a trophy, you know, so they are the only team that can win a treble, and their supporters are right to talk about that because they're right in the mix of all the competitions. Hibs away will be tough. I thought they were very good against Celtic, sort of found a little bit of form and a little bit of belief. Got a good win at the weekend, so that'll be a cracking tie when it comes around. But Rangers are going very, very well.
Yeah, the manager, Philippe Clement, says the fans have every right to keep dreaming about the treble.
Yes, they have a right to dream because they're fans. So they can dream, and it's important to dream also in life. I want one thing, that's my players are focused on the next game. Just that. And full focus on that. And you can dream in the beginning of the season, but as a player, as a manager, as member of staff, you need to be in the story in that moment. But that's the nice thing to be fan, that you can do those things. So,
what do you make of him, Stephen?
I think he's been impressive since he came in. We've played them a couple of times. He's obviously put his way on things. They've changed a little bit in terms of their approach and style. They do look to go in behind a lot more and utilise the pace that they've got in the squad. And momentum's everything. You know, they're building momentum, and it's obviously there's real competition for the title this year. You know, he's come in and he seems to put his own stamp on it, as I say, and you know he's doing it his way. Sometimes that might help when maybe not being from the area and maybe not seeing everything and reading everything and being in amongst everything, because he just seems extremely focused. I had a good chat with him after our game. He was very complimentary to us. And yeah, it's obviously an interesting run into the title now.
Yeah, you do get some managers who totally eat it, sleep, live it, in the area, the lot. That I don't think I could have. The difference between him being able to detract himself from the madness, and you absolutely lived it, didn't you?
I enjoyed it. I enjoyed the chaos. Like.
I know. That's the one great thing about your personality. You absolutely enjoyed the mayhem.
I enjoyed it and enjoyed the pressure. And like when you're a manager of a club as big as Celtic or Rangers, it's a privilege. The pressure, like, you know what I mean. It comes with, you know, the responsibility, and you know you're carrying the hopes of hundreds of thousands of people, and it's a great thing to be. I think he speaks well. I think he's done a great job with the players that were already there. He's improving them, but still, I think they've got a bit to go.
Yeah.
You know, it's great that for the neutral there's a title race because we haven't had one for a long time.
Yeah, and of course the other thing about it, Tam, is they've got a chance, depending on how many they score, if they get a win against Ross County and by a few goals, to go top.
Yeah, they have. They obviously had that against Aberdeen as well. They didn't quite get the goals required to go top of the league. Ross County without a manager at the minute as well. You know, so Don Cowie go in there and try and make them difficult to break down. But I've been quite impressed with Rangers. I think that you know, under Clement they've got a steeliness and they're grinding out wins. I don't think they're playing fantastic football, but they're grinding out wins and they're just churning out wins. You know, I can see it in your screen there. I think the only defeat of
He's doing it again. He always reads the screen.
By the way,
all his legs rubble.
Just out of curiosity, Robbo, if you've never seen it, right? I mean, you're talking about a cheeky chappie who liked a good night out, and then after he reads my notes, he sounds like Jeremy Paxman. So he just reads them, and people are going, "God, that boy does his homework, doesn't he? Really, he's so astute."
So one defeat was against Celtic, and the rest are wins. You know, so his record's been tremendous. And as I say, I think the Rangers fans are rightly to be, if you feel confident, because you know the treble it's not a million miles away for them.
So here's an interesting narrative, Pete.
Right.
Tom's saying Rangers are grinding out results. Celtic have won 8 and drawn 1 of the last 9 games, and that's pretty impressive. But they're the ones getting all the criticism, and Brendan's getting the criticism for, quite rightly, the performances aren't at the level that we expect them to be. Should we expect that? This is a newish team with a different coach, but they're still winning the games. But the narrative is Celtic are struggling and Rangers are doing really well.
Well, listen, it's a great point that you make, and on the basis of the two.
But you can understand,
Peter, that not me.
yeah, but you can understand why. You can understand why Brendan would get a bit spiky about it. Like, you know what I mean?
Listen, I absolutely have no problem with any manager getting spiky at all. You know, we offer our opinion every now and then. I'm quite happy for a manager to leather me. Along the way, I'm quite happy for a manager in a club to bar me. But the point here is the unrest, or the narrative that Brendan's putting out that people have got it in for him. The story here is about Celtic fans, whether they're demanders or have a sense of entitlement. They were expecting 2 things from this Celtic side when Brendan came back. Brendan, who left in circumstances which irked Celtic fans. They were looking at it and saying, OK, he's come back after the Ange Postecoglou treble and the way that the team played and the way they played in European football. And all Celtic fans are asking is, OK, he's back. You're asking us to accept him back after the circumstances of his departure. He's a great coach. He's a great coach, Brendan Rodgers. Is he coming back just to win the league? The general feeling among Celtic fans is, surely you're going to back him and they're going to be able to do something in Europe. That's what the general feeling is, rightly or wrongly. That's what the feeling was. So when he comes back, they don't do anything in Europe. The football for them is back to where it was just before he left, and they're looking at it and saying, where was the spark? They just haven't seen it. That doesn't mean to say that they're out there in their thousands, they're paying their money. It's not journalists, not Peter Martin or somebody on BBC or anybody.
I agree with you. But
it's the fans.
You see the point I'm trying to make? At the minute, the way the narrative is, you got, like, everything's great on this side of the fence. The results are the same.
Yeah, but do you know why, Neil? Do you know why?
Because
they were used to the and no disrespect to the Managers Association here, but the Rangers fans were used to a narrative of complete claptrap from Michael Beale. You know, you think Steven Gerrard and Gary McAllister had done nothing, and this was the new technical genius who knew football inside out. So the Rangers fans were used to this, and they were watching Celtic come to Ibrox and beat them, and they were watching Celtic win the treble. And they were saying, we're not having it. You're not the great coach that you portrayed yourself out to be. And despite all the stuff that he started to say and waffle at the end, the Rangers fans had had enough of him. So from drawing games, and they drew, the final nail in the coffin for Giovanni Van Bronckhorst was a draw at St Mirren. Then they go on to Michael Beale with this, he's the light, the way and the truth. It didn't materialise. They eventually saw through the whole smokescreen. Now they've got a manager who suddenly made them difficult to beat, and they're winning.
Right, you say that, but his record, Michael Beale had a similar record. Michael last season was beating everybody bar Celtic.
Well, that's not necessarily the case. He was drawing and dropping crucial points in certain games, and that's what they couldn't put up with it.
Right.
So that is not the case. The case is that they were drawing games that the Rangers fans thought they should have been winning. And then, of course, the ultimate thing, which I mentioned to everybody who goes to a game, because, you know, I hate to have a go at you guys, but managers, I always say to my journalists, listen, ask questions, be respectful, but remember, managers paint a picture of a game that you might not be at. Gordon Strachan used to paint a game and I thought, my God, I'm watching Real Madrid. It was complete bollocks. I'm thinking, I'm not going to accept just because you're the manager that you're giving me the gospel according to Gordon Strachan, Neil Lennon and Stephen Robinson. I'm there to ask questions. I'm there to watch the game. I'm there to offer an opinion. I'm not there to tell you your tactics. My job is to say, give me your thoughts. Can you explain your defeat? Can you explain the game? What about the way your team are playing? What about the fans who've said this? My opinion on it is irrelevant. I'm there to get Stephen Robinson. I say this to every journalist who ever works for me. Your opinion, do not tell a manager what you think. You ask him and let him give his opinion. You are the most important man in a press conference, same as you.
But opinions can be influential to the public.
Absolutely.
Your opinion creates a narrative.
People,
you know, that's if something's said often enough, people believe it. You know, that's and if you're obviously trying to protect your players as a manager in a position that you don't tell the truth. That's the reality. You don't. Exactly. I mean, if you did, you'd lose half the dressing room.
Yeah.
So you don't do that, and you've got your employer is above you, your board, and that. You're not. You know, you protect people, and you're ultimately the one that takes the fall for it. And you have to try and create the narrative to create a positivity around the football club. So I have a little bit of sympathy for Michael as well. You know, was it him that was putting that narrative out that he was
a great coach?
He was a great coach, and that I think people latched onto that. And I know Michael. I don't know him particularly well, but you know, I think the narrative's created, especially in Scotland. It's it's a goldfish bowl, and everybody's got an interest in it. And I think the more times people say things, the more it's believed. You know, and social media is the biggest creator of that.
We're not creating the unrest among Celtic fans.
No.
They're rolling up banners. And they're not happy with the way the team's playing. And at the end of the day, if I say on this programme, Stephen, here's a classic, and it goes for Martin and Neil as well. If I say Celtic have played really well, they've got a great performance, but there was something that we offered a comment on, even an opinion when I was writing an opinion piece for newspapers. The PR guy never puts in, by the way, this guy and that guy were really complimentary. All the PR guy does, there's that guy that said that about you. He said this, he's negative, they say this. They've got the press in Scotland and the broadcast, all that's fed to the manager is, he said this, he's negative, he said this about you. It's not, by the way, he said your team played really well. They don't. So they're fed that constant negative all the time. So you're right, some managers are prickly about it. But Brendan Rodgers is a top coach. He's a really, for me, he's the best coach in the country. Now, if I highlight the nature of why he left and now he's back, and Celtic fans say they were looking for a spark, it's not there. I haven't created it.
No, I get that. My point is, like, they're out of Europe, I don't know, early December, and now we're 9 games on. He's won 8 and drawn 1, and there's still this sort of. And I know the performances haven't been exhilarating, but they're getting the job done, if you know what I mean.
Yeah.
And they should take some sort of encouragement from that, rather than be like constantly banging on about haven't got the players. We have got the players. Rob will tell you they've got the players.
Yeah. Interestingly enough, John Brown.
Back that after yesterday, they definitely do. Yeah.
John Brown, who's a Rangers legend, again, you know, the fans are getting excited talking about a possible treble, and he pointed out today that it's a wee bit early to start thinking about a treble with Celtic and what they've achieved.
Oh, you can't even talk about that. You know, I think we're playing against a team that won a treble last season, and they've been flying. You know, we're in a good position now to peg them back, which we have. It starts to get interesting now. Who can handle it? This league will go right to the last game of the season. Honestly, it'll go down to probably the Old Firm games.
Yeah. Neil's amazed that that's about the closest we'll get to swearing on this programme. John Brown makes a great. Every time I see John Brown, I think one of the most underrated players in Scottish football in the Rangers 9 in a row team, and rightly so. He's been over the course, and he mentioned there, don't get ahead of yourself.
Well, Neil mentions that every week in the show. Rangers have still got to prove that they can beat Celtic. Celtic have got winners in their team. Right through their team, guys that have won 20 trophies. Rangers have not got that same level of experience in the running. And it's going to be really, really tight. Rangers are in Europe, they might be playing on a Sunday. Celtic might go 3 points ahead of them. How do they react to that? So I think he's right. I think Celtic are still favourites because they're coast and distance winners. They've been over the course, they know what it takes to win trophies, win leagues. And Rangers have not proved that yet. Plus the head-to-head with Celtic and Rangers over the last 6 or 7 games, I think Rangers have won one, and it was a dead rubber under Ange when Celtic won the league, and I think Celtic have won every other big game. So Rangers have still got to prove it for me in the big games, and they've still got to prove their bottle in the running. So that's why I still make Celtic slight favourites.
Yeah. In the game, Rangers won it 2-0. Scott Brown at the end of it, I think fairly philosophical in the fact that I don't think it was a game where he expected to go and win at Ibrox, but he thought Rangers should have been reduced to 10 men with the challenge from Connor Golson. But he says, in true Scott Brown fashion, he knew he wasn't going to get sent off.
I knew he was never getting sent off, if I'm being honest. At that time, it was never going to be a red card. I think if it was the other way around, it could have been.
Why was that? Just the crowd? Was it the referee?
It was the pressure. The pressure's hard, and coming into these big occasions, some people can deal with it, some people can't.
Okay, Brownie's like you.
Straight out of my
I know. So he's read the Neil Lennon book and how to approach a press conference. Straight in.
Get after the referee.
Should he have been sent off?
I need to see it again. I'm not sure, Peter. I don't know. What do you think?
The United boy does him a favour, Peter.
Yeah.
I think the way he goes in, if he slows it down, if that boy rolls about, I think he's off. But he actually played on. The boy must have iron ankles because it was like a straight footer but in high, and the boy played on and played it wide, and then it wasn't even repeated. It wasn't shown again in the course of the game. It was only highlighted later on in the sports scene. So I think the boy done him a favour. Fabio Silva, I thought could have been fortunate. I think he could have got a second yellow. I think his first yellow was soft, but then he goes and chops the boy, late on in the game, which could have been a second yellow. And Bruni was annoyed because he scored the second goal to clinch the game. So listen, I think Rangers have still won the game with 10 men. I think they were comfortable, but a couple of decisions never just went Ayers' way.
Yeah, I was going to ask Stephen this question, but I'm not going to ask him this question on the basis of fairness to a manager, right? Yeah. Do you think some referees are intimidated by the fact that they are in the big stadiums? Because I know managers think, come on, make the call, send them off, give them a penalty. Celtic and Rangers, they can't do it in front of 15,000, 60,000. Are refs intimidated?
I think it's only human nature to be intimidated by a 50,000, 60,000 crowd. Celtic and Rangers do get the majority of the big decisions, in my opinion. United, I think Bruni was upset. Willie Collum's been under a bit of pressure from Rangers, as we all know, after the Old Firm game. Was he really going to give those decisions in the heat of the moment? That's up to Willie to decide that, but I think there is an element of referees sometimes being a little bit intimidated, and the pressure that Willie Collum was under after the Old Firm game wouldn't have helped him in this game.
Okay, if you were in a cup game and you were drawn against Morton, you certainly wouldn't want to go down to Capello because Dougie Emery has them flying and they're up for the battle, and they managed to knock Motherwell out of the cup. And I think Stuart Kettlewell, certainly this morning when I was speaking to him, reckoned that his side just couldn't cope with what Morton had to offer.
So many people speak about this plan A. This is how we play. We never deviate from it. And this is where I need to be clear. This is probably what my biggest frustration was on Friday. Go to Capello, dealing with a strong win, dealing with a team that's playing well, dealing with a team that's going to be as aggressive as what they are, both on the pitch and off it, I have to say as well. I believe in handling that. I believe in producing a team that's capable, whatever the game's thrown at us.
Sometimes it's good to read between the lines when a manager says something as well, and that was just basically Stuart having a go at their team, their tactics, and the manager at the sideline as well. Because, listen, we all live in a world of football purists who want to win a game the perfect way. If you're going into a boxing ring with a better boxer, you've got to work out a way to, destabilise them.
I thought Morton did that. I watched the game. I thought good volley for the win peak. Motherwell had a bit of a rally towards the end, but you couldn't really see them. I don't remember Morton's goalkeeper, having to make save after save. And they're on a great run, Morton. And he's got the best out of Oakley. He scored a great goal. He'll be disappointed, Stuart, not only with the performance, but the goals they conceded as well. I mean, the one from the corner is just a shambles. You know,
there's nobody in the front.
Well, there was something, but I don't think Blair got back in time. Maybe he's in the wrong position to deal with it.
Keeper at fault?
Well, eventually, you know, I mean, you're expecting your near post man to deal with that, but I don't know if Blair was in the right position. But then after that, the keeper should do better. And then Paul McGinn gave the ball away in a bad area, and you know, Oakley was in the Eckers, but she never got tight enough to him, and it was a good finish. But I thought overall Morton thoroughly deserved it, and Stuart was bitterly disappointed, not only with the result, but the way his team didn't show up.
Yeah, okay, it's one of those games where Dougie Emery's team talk at the start, you know, doesn't really need to say much, does he? Just get into them. It's a part they won't fancy. It's a group of fans they certainly will not fancy it. You know, this is their chance.
I've been on the end of it. I was assistant manager in Motherwell the last time Morton beat them, and Ian Barraclough lost his job the next day. So I know what a tough venue it is. It really is. It was, you know, a vibrant crowd as well down there. You know, the pitch wasn't great. The wind was blowing. It had everything set for a cup upset. You know, and Dougie, obviously, with his history with Hamilton and Motherwell, I'm sure he would have enjoyed it, because he enjoyed it against me plenty of times anyway. We pat in the back after he beat us or scored against us. But, you know, as you rightly say, you know, when you're playing an opponent that's, you know, on paper a lot better than you and a bigger football club, you've got to find a way to bridge the gap. You know, everyone's trying to bridge gaps in terms of the quality, and they've done that. I watched the game. I was really impressed with Morton. I thought they were really good, really organised. And as you Stuart will be rightly disappointed with it. You know, it's a tough tie. There's nothing easy in cup football, you know, and as you go into them games and the expectation's huge on Motherwell to turn up and roll them over, and it never happens like that, unfortunately. And, you know, credit to Morton, they deserve to win and go into the next round.
Yeah, Morton's got a manager who is, for me, the Championship Neil Lennon, because he copied you. I mean, as soon as they won, he's just up at the Motherwell fans with it. He didn't do the airplane. I think Neil's copyrighted that, but he was cupping his ears to the fans. I love a good noise, do you?
It's a bit of entertainment, Pete.
Yeah.
It's good to have a bit of character about the place, like, you know what I mean? And I mean, at the start of the season, you feared the worst from Dougie and Morton, but he's turned it round completely. The form in the Championship's been brilliant.
Yeah.
You know, I think they beat Dundee United 5 there not so long ago, and then they've gone and, you know, they're in the quarterfinals of the Cup. So I think he signed a new contract as well. So fair play to him. You know, he's doing a fantastic job there under, you know, tight budget and difficult circumstances.
Yeah, and Dougie Emery himself reckons that he's got players that could be playing in the top flight.
Listen, I just said to them, we just keep doing what I've been doing for the last 2.5 months. Just play with our freedom. There's no pressure on us tonight to go and win the game. The pressure was on Motherwell. They're the team in the Premier League. They're the team that have got Premier League players and international players in their team. My players just to go and play with our freedom. And the biggest thing I said to them, I think there's 2 or 3 in my squad that could play in the Premier League. And that's the game that they need to show that to get people interested in, and hopefully they get that opportunity, because like I say, I watch a lot of games and there's players within my team that can play Premier League.
Yep, like Dougie, got a lot of time for him. I like his attitude as well. I think the key issue here, and Stephen, you'll be well aware of this, we're now living in an environment, you've mentioned the rise of social media and how some people have got a platform that really shouldn't have a platform. But we're also in an era where there seems to be a quick fix. Maybe we're guilty of it here, you know, when we're reacting to fans saying he's 7 games into his managerial tenure, sack him. I'm not quite sure I've ever been in a situation where a manager's been 7 games in a job and think he's under pressure, but that's the nature of it. I mean, even Nick Montgomery was under a wee bit of pressure there, trying to get results.
It's crazy. It's a crazy industry. It wasn't always like that in Scotland. It's got worse. It's now caught up with England. England was ruthless and got you know, through time got even worse. But in any other business, you know, you employ somebody within 3 months and you do your due diligence and say he's the man to take us forward, and within a short period of time you completely change your mind and rip the whole script up, change the whole staff, cost another fortune to bring in their staff, their ideas, their type of players. You know, you've give millions of pounds to a manager in any other industry. It's crazy. Yeah. It's absolutely crazy. But these guys that are making the decisions, they read social media, they want not to take the blame on it. So the easy option is the manager. And of course, I'm going to say that. I'm going to stick up for managers. But I think in any other industry or any other business, the short-term fix rarely works. And you need to be given time. You need to be given 2 and 3 transfer windows to get your team in place. If you're being brought in, or some managers being brought in, I think that was Nick's first transfer window, isn't it, as well? So people need time. They need people to back them. Everyone's got, as you say, people have got opinions that I wouldn't cross the road to hear some of them, and I'm very lucky that I'm not on social media. I mean, I literally know nothing. I have to brief me before I go into my press what's going on in life. I walk my dog a lot in the wilderness with my missus, so I think that's the only way you can stay sane as a manager. Just don't read it, otherwise it influences your decision making. It influences, if there's a fine line between players. Oh, well, he likes him more than that, and we shouldn't be taking that seriously. It's give people a platform. They put it in writing now, and people think it's the gospel. It's not, and we need to be, as people that own football clubs, I really think there needs to be a stance to go, we've backed this guy, let's put our money into this guy and our patience with this guy and be brave enough to do that. I really believe that.
Yeah, well, that's fine for a manager who can block. That's fine for a manager who can block the noise, which is great. I like that. No, I like the fact that you're able to block the noise out. The key for me is for chairman and chief executives to block the noise out and not listen to some fans who suddenly have this voice that they shouldn't have, and influence them to the point where suddenly the axe falls on a manager quickly.
Yeah, listen, it's supporters at games as well can have an influence. I think the St Mirren game a couple of weeks ago against Hibs, I think St Mirren were 3-0 up, and he was getting booed off, and there was a lot of animosity towards the manager. And boards are at the game, chairmen are at the game, and they're hearing all this, and there are people shouting at them. And once it starts to come to that, then I think they get itchy, fingers to sack the manager. But in terms of Nick Montgomery, the last 2 games he's changed the system. I've said it so many times. He's been playing 4-4, played 4-4-2 with the 2 wide men against St Mirren, and you played the 3-5-2, and they battered them in the middle of the pitch. Too physical, too good for them. 3-0 going on 5 or 6 at Easter Road. He changed it. He played the 3 in the middle against Celtic. Much better performance. He kept the system. Goes up and wins a tough tie in Inverness. I think in Scottish football, I think you need the 3 in there. I think you need the 3 midfield players in there. Scottish football, there's a lot of second balls drop. It's a unique league in terms of running power. And to play a 4-4-2 with 2 out-and-out wingers, he played with Jair Tavares and Johan. They don't want to track back, Peter, and teams are locking onto that, and they were getting a lot of joy against Hibs. So he's now put the 3 in there. He's a wee bit more legs in there with the young boy Welsh, and I think they look a better side now.
Okay, do you agree with them?
I think they've got a lot of good players, Hibs. I really do. I think they've got a lot of good players. They've got boys that can win the game in a drop of a hat. It's right. There's such a disparity between the league. You've got probably lower end Premier League teams, and then you've got potentially League 2 teams, League 1 teams in that mix. So you go to every game and you're dealing with a lot of longer balls, you're dealing with a lot of second balls. So my belief is we actually play with a boxing midfield. We play with our 2 10s dropping in. We try and get 4 in there, and our width comes from our wing backs. So we try and dominate the middle area of the pitch, and if there's any area you give up the wide areas, and then you have to defend your box. So yeah, listen, every manager's got their own ideas, and as you rightly said, Nick's changed that in the last couple of games, and he's got results with it, and he's certainly got the players to have a successful squad there. There's, as I say, there's players that can win games on their own, and I'd definitely take a few of them, I have to say, Peter.
Yeah. Well, I was going to say to you, the other thing you did mention there, I was just picking up on, your wife's right to block the social media from you. I know she's blocked Tam from the Twitter, and his. I'll tell you how you should play. So
I don't let that. Unfortunately, no. I respect everyone's opinion, but it doesn't mean to say I have to read them. Yeah. So.
Absolutely. Of course, listen, Hibs are through. Aberdeen are through 2-0 against Bonnyrigg, and Neil Warnock, who's in our game for a short period of time, reckons Bojan Majowski is top drawer.
Score a couple of goals and come off at half time, or if you want 15 more minutes, you could have 15 minutes to get your hat trick. And he scored 2 goals. We had a wink at each other when he scored his goals, but he wanted to stay on a bit longer. And it's saying we wanted 2. They're all. He's just a top finisher. I've always struggled with strikers, if I'm honest. Really, all through my career, I've been good at goalies and centre halves and midfielders, but never really on a striker. So ironic, isn't it? Coming to this stage of my career, I've got probably the best one I've ever had.
High praise indeed. I like the fact that one journalist said to him, are you looking, far ahead with, could you possibly stay on at Aberdeen if you won the cup and maybe get fourth? And he said, I'm 75, I'm only looking to next week's game. But he's right though. If your job becomes easier, Neil, if you've got a striker who scores goals. Oh,
worth their weight in gold. They're priceless. Played with them, managed a few. Always looked. The first port of call was my goalkeeper and my striker. And I would love to know where Aberdeen would be without his goals this season.
Yeah.
We talk about Miofsky and Shankland almost every week because they're always scoring goals. And for me, they're two of the best strikers I've seen outside the big team in Scotland for a long, long time.
Okay, Livingston managed to get past Partick Thistle, and David Martindale was singing the praises of a man that he was trying to punt forever and a day, Joel Newbley.
I would say most days have been out of form. Most days have been out of form, but what I would say with Noobs is I've played him as a left 10, as a right 10, in a 3-4-2-1. I've played him as a wing back in a 3-5-2. I've played him as a 9 up there himself. I've played him as a 9 with 2 strikers. So he's never moaned. He's always got on with it. But I think hand in heart, I think Big Noobs is. And he's more of a 11, I think, in terms of the left-hand side than a 7 on the right. But I thought he was fantastic today. And he looked back to his old self, didn't he?
Yeah, I mean, we were thinking of signing him for the 5s. Davey was trying to...
He was on eBay, Gumtree, he was on everything he could possibly sell. Davey was desperate to get some money for him. He's still there. I think that's his first 2 goals of the season. I don't think he's scored at all this season. I thought he was tremendous. I thought he was terrific for them last season. A real presence up front. He's got good feet, quick, strong. But this season, I don't know whether him not getting a move has maybe affected him mentally. But he's here out with the summer. Maybe those 2 goals will give him a wee lift as well towards the end of the season.
I'll tell you what will give the whole club a lift, the money that's coming from the next round in the Scottish Cup against Celtic. Kilmarnock are through. They've got a tasty one against Aberdeen. Again, Derek...
Good story there, isn't it?
Old head, isn't he? I mean, what a story it will be if he can take the scalp of Aberdeen.
I've always been a big admirer of him. One, he's got longevity, and 2, he's got consistency. And the job he's doing, it's a bit like the man sitting next to me, the jobs he's done up here. They've got this sort of... intelligence about them. They know what to get out of the team that they have, and he's doing the same. He did a long time at Aberdeen. He's doing it now at Kilmarnock. He's got them up, then he kept them up, and it's just a natural. Seems to be a progressive club going forward under Derek, and they're in the quarter-final. It's a great story. Him going back to Aberdeen. That's going to be really interesting. I wonder if a lot of Aberdeen fans are now thinking, what could have been if you'd kept him on. But I think he had done his time at Aberdeen and he wanted a new challenge anyway. But I mean, he's at the time at Aberdeen, he turned down Rangers, he turned down Sunderland. So you see the qualities that he has, and he's shown all them again.
Yeah, and if you want a lesson in sticking by a manager and a young manager, then look no further than Hearts boss Stevie Naismith. That's 10 wins in 11 games in all competitions. And of course, Stevie Naismith now looking forward to the latter stages of the Cup again.
And even my time at the club as a player and that, we've been consistently in the later rounds of cups. We've been to 2 cup finals, we've been 2 penalties away from winning. So we've been close, but nobody remembers the closeness. It's just who wins it in the end.
Goal again the weekend.
Yeah, goal scorers always helps when you've got one.
We're just talking there about Shankland. He's in the form of his life, and I've always liked him as a player. I know he was at St Mirren as a kid, Aberdeen. I think Ian McCall got hold of him at Ayr United, got him fit, maybe got him leaner, got him quicker, got him fitter, and from then on he's never looked back. Dundee United, not a great spell in Belgium, but comes back to Hearts and he's been outstanding. The quality, his finishes, he scores every type of goal. He can score goals for 30 yards. He went through in the goalkeeper, dinked the goalkeeper at the weekend. He's just, anything that drops to him now you think it's going to be a goal. He's in one of those veins of form that I was never in, where anything that drops to you think they're going to score. And I think he's got 24, 25 goals. He's going to score another 30 this season. So,
and he should be going to the Euros.
Yeah.
Oh, absolutely. I think he'll be...
But everybody's talking about, midway through the season, we're saying, Do you think he'll go to the Euros?
No,
now everybody's saying
might play.
He's a starter. He's got to be a stick on for it.
Top class. He is. He's top class. He's a difference in games all the time. You know, we play Hearts and he scored against us. I mean, he literally had a yard to turn right foot, left foot, top corner. He scored a goal against Hibs in the last minute, and he's an exceptional player. I think he's top class. You mentioned Miofsky as well. The two of them are literally the difference between winning and losing games at times. And you know, it'd certainly be I would imagine Steve will be looking very closely at taking him on that plane, yeah.
Yeah, two things I want to get. I want to get your thoughts before we finish, Stephen. Your best place to look at the Scottish Cup quarter-final draw. This is how it's all shaping up. Aberdeen, Kilmarnock, Celtic, Livingston, Morton against Hearts and Hibs against Rangers. Unless Celtic and Rangers are drawn against each other in a semi-final, of the teams that are there, Stephen, who do you think is best place to think silverware could be our best hope?
I mean, Aberdeen and Kelly game is a real interesting one, isn't it? You say about Derry going back again. You know, if one of those can get through to the semi-final, obviously then you're one game from the final and anything can happen. So I think both those clubs will be looking at that. Hibs will fancy their chances as well at home. You know, it'll be a tough game. You say Rangers are grinding out results and have shown a real steeliness to do that lately, as we've spoke about previously. So some really interesting ties. You say about Livy getting the money. I mean, I'll be devastated if I got Celtic away after getting through in the cup. So, you know, it's financially it's brilliant for them. You know, the directors will be absolutely buzzing. I'm not sure Davey will be quite so happy with that. Say.
Oh no, I think he's
doing a
triple salto and 2 backflips. I mean, when you think of the budget, he's absolutely delighted. Because remember, we've got them written off, we've got them down in the Championship, so every penny will be a prisoner trying to get them back up.
That's what we played them on Saturday. When I was at the game, I was at the Partick game, at 2-0 down. I left it 2-1 to be fair, but you know, it shows the character and the players are still playing for Davy, which is, you know, you want every manager to do well. So, you know, maybe that's hopefully not this Saturday, but hopefully I could spark them on after this Saturday.
Yeah, 2 quick points, obviously, that I really want to chat to you about, certainly with regards to, I mean, Derek Adams was quite scathing when he was in charge third time around at Ross County, and maybe was just a wee bit over the top. But you were at Motherwell and there was good quality. The game's not rubbish. We want to talk it up, but we've got to be realistic. We want to improve. There needs to be better improvements in our game. Did you in any way empathise with Derek and what he was saying?
No, none, not at all. No.
Well, give me your thoughts then on.
I managed Morecambe, remember? So
yeah. Give me your thoughts on the. Well, there's a great point on it. Right, give me your thoughts on our standard, and you know, from a St Mirren perspective, are you heartened by the academy and what it could maybe bring to you? Because it's a game where you've got to get results now.
Yeah, I don't think there's enough young Scottish players coming through, to be honest. I think it's getting very, very difficult to put young players into the team because, as we've spoke about, you get such a short period of time to be successful. Everybody wants you to play young players, but you put them in and you lose 3 games with them, you're now 2 more games from the sack. So as a manager, it's difficult to keep developing them. I think the league itself, the numbers in the league, every game it's huge. You know, you lose 2 or 3 games, you're now looking over your shoulder at the playoff position. You know, you win 2 or 3, you're looking at Europe. So there's not in the English leagues. You know, there's 20 odd teams, and there's a period in between there where you can actually throw players in for 5 and 6 games. You know, and you're not under threat of relegation. You're probably not going to get into the top 6 or 7, whatever it is. So I think that's something we need to improve on. There's certain tweaks within the game. The loan system in Scottish football is, we've got a young boy on loan in the Irish League, but we weren't able to bring him back and loan him somewhere else because he wasn't playing at the time, because he had played 1 game in the cup for us. And you think there's certain things that, you know, the SFA can help with, and they've spoke about, and they have actually asked us. In terms of the quality of the game, there's bad games everywhere. You know, I've managed in League 2 where Derek was managing with Morecambe. I managed them in League 1, and there was bad games in League 1. You know, a windy night and rainy night at Morecambe, or away to Plymouth, or one of the teams that, you know, it was horrendous quality at times. Yeah. And then the opposite end, if there's superb games, there's games that are championship level. You look at some of the games, you know, our Hibs v game 2 weeks ago, I thought we were outstanding. You know, we played some super football. So at every level, there's going to be poor football matches. There's going to be poor games.
And picking up on what you just said there, I'm a fan of 16 or 18 team league. Is that what you think we should be looking at moving forward?
Yeah, I think so. I really do. You know, it becomes, you're playing 4 times a season and then you get them again in the cup, and you know, it doesn't become boring for fans, but it certainly would add a little bit more spice to it. It would allow managers the opportunity to maybe throw younger players in for longer, quicker, because I mean, at the minute it's hard to develop them, because the only way they develop is playing games. You know, we've got a system in place where we put our boys out on loan at levels where they're going to get criticised, they've got to make decisions, and then you want to bring them back and put them in. But I guarantee every manager thinks, well, I better be careful, because you are 2 and 3 games from being under huge pressure. So with a bigger league, that probably alleviates that a little bit, and allows for the development of young Scottish players as well, which I don't think there's enough of in academies coming through. At our club, there isn't. We've done a whole review of it, and we've changed a lot of things, and that's a process. So that's going to be a 4 and 5 year process before we probably see the fruits of that. You know, so there's lots of things I believe the SFA can do, and they're looking to do. They spoke to us about, but there's lots and lots of good games, and lots of quality up here as well. You know, there's lots of League One players and Championship players come up here and struggle, and vice versa. You know, go down and struggle. So it's dependent on the game. There's, as I've said plenty of times, I think there's maybe 4 leagues in one league here at times. You know, there's top League 2, there's bottom end Championship, there's bottom end Premier League sides and games within that. There are structures, so it makes it interesting. Yeah, certainly I'd look for a bigger league.
Yeah, listen, it's been an absolute joy having you in, and especially because Neil and I were in a right good ding-dong battle with each other, and Tam was in there as well. It's been brilliant to get your insight into it.
I sat on the fence on that one. I never helped.
No, that was like honestly, do you know, I don't want to get too sentimental. That's why I love you, because it's just great. I love having a fight with you, Lenny.
Debating.
Yeah, absolutely. Debating, yeah, that's what we'll call it. Thanks to Neil Lennon, as ever, absolutely brilliant. Tam McManus, and great to have Stephen in with us, and hopefully the Saints fans have got a real insight into the team, and we wish you the very best of luck, and hopefully not the last time we see you in the studio. From everyone here on The Football Show, don't forget to hit the subscribe button on our YouTube channel, and thank you for listening and watching.